I'm the type of person when people say, oh, that's really difficult, you shouldn't do it. That is when I do it. I found my new hidden talent of baking. Those baking session is like a therapy session for me. I don't have a lot of skills to be a good baker, even a winner of the show at that time. But what I do is I accept that I have the transferable skills. I have my research skill. I have my experimental skills. So all of that actually contribute to what you're going to become. Always dream high because it's free.
And we're live. Today I'm with Syabira Yusoff, who's the winner of the Great British Bake Off 2022. If you're joining us for the first time, we're the Bay HQ, and we're all about inspiring the next generation of British Asians. If you enjoy this episode, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify, and subscribe to us on YouTube. So I want to dive in straight away with you. When you're growing up, what did you want to be? What was your dream?
When I was growing up, in the classes when teachers asking, oh, what you want to do? I normally end up wants to be a doctor. So whatever I'm doing, I just trying to get the best of the best each in the classes. But I normally end up to be the most mediocre students in the class. I never be the first or the top list. So that's how I started my education from primary school up until university. Until I finish my degree, I'm still mediocre. So what I normally do is I work really hard, but I hate exam. Exam for me, the question is so complicated, I normally don't understand and I end up answering different things. So when I went to the university, I chatted to my dad. I said I want to be a doctor. And then he said to me, well, I'm growing up in a very conventional family. He said, if you become a doctor, you're going to be very busy. You will not have time for your family. You will not have time for your kids. Why don't you change it to become a person who work in the agriculture sector where you more into food chain, and in this world, you'll never running out of food if you're all working in a food chain. So that's how I started my journey in the university. I learned about agriculture and I put off the dreams to be a doctor aside for a while. And after I finished my degree, I still feel like I want more. For me, agriculture itself, and I do a lot of plant breeding. I'm alone in the field doing a sweet corn evaluation, looking at the tassel. When is the best time to harvest the sweet corn? And I was wondering what is in the sweet corn, how it happened, how you cross everything. It just happened to be something else. And it's all what we call as genetics. And it's because I'm not normally the best student or the top achieving student. Some of my friends just said, genetics is really difficult, so don't go near to it. And I'm the type of person when people say, oh, that's really difficult, you shouldn't do it. That is when I do it. So I decided to apply for a degree and started my PhD 6 months after in UK. Yeah. And that's how I ended in Leicester University studying a PhD in genetics and genome biology. How
did you find it when you moved across? Obviously, you grew up in Malaysia, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you find that move from Malaysia to the UK?
There's a couple of funny incidents happening when I started university. On the first day I came into the leave, I met another person in the department. So he asked me a very simple question. How is it going? It sounds so normal now, you can understand. But at that point, I don't understand what he's trying to say. So from the ground floor to the third floor to the department, it feels so long because he keep on asking me. And I say, I don't understand. Can you repeat it again? So I just say, I don't understand you. Can you ask any other question that could replace that question? And then he said, are you okay? So I said, yeah, I'm okay. And then I just turn around and wait until the lift open and I'll go and straight meeting my supervisor. And then my first meeting with my supervisor, I don't understand as well what she's saying. And then I realized, okay, this is going to be a steep learning curve. It's going to be fun times. You're going to struggle, but it's fine. I'm here now. There's no turning back. And as a person coming from Asia, we do love our food. Our food is like you eat rice and curry for lunch. You eat a lot of hot food for lunch. But here people normally eat sandwich. And after a week, I eat sandwich every single day. It comes to mind like, okay, this is so difficult. And I only eat sandwich with egg and cress every single day. And I end up crying on the bench. So I cannot forget that experience where you cry because you don't have your food. Mm-hmm. So that's when I just accept the fact that this is my life now. I just have to deal with it. And that's when I tried to go out and explore more around the town. And apparently Leicester is a very good place. I got a lot of good restaurants there.
Yeah, because how was the actual studying part of it, right? Because like you said, people said it was going to be really difficult, which is really mean to say that to you. But how did you find the studying? Did you enjoy the studying part of it, the research part?
So for the studying part, it doesn't involve exam, which is what I love about it. Because I'm not really good at exam. But other than that, I'm good at it. So in terms of the lab work, on the first day I came, I don't know how to use pipettes, but I learned it's a very, very steep learning curve, learning into research, got thrown into the deep end of the research. But I don't know, for some reason, I just pull it through. I normally will work really, really hard to get where I want it to be. And it's because the lab is so full of people. I normally come in at 6 o'clock and I say goodbye to everyone by 12 o'clock. And at the same time, I have been introduced into very cool computational biology that I'm so obsessed about. So in that 3.5 years of my time, I normally just spend research in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I'm just doing coding. And that's it. 3.5 years gone really quick.
So what happened next after that? Where did you go to from there?
So after the research and the fun part of doing the coding, now it's time to writing up. So the writing up is not as easy as I thought it could be, because you have to understand the language. You need to make it more scientific. So it get really stressful, and I think, okay, I need to step back. I miss my country now. I just want to go home, but I can't go home. I have a lot of things to do. So that is when I found my new hidden talent of baking. Because before I came to England, I wasn't born in a very rich family. It's a very normal family where my friend brings me to a cafe in Malaysia, and they say, when you're in England, you have a lot of this cafe. When you stress or you feel sad, you go into the cafe, ask a slice of cake and have a cup of coffee, chill. Yeah. So every time I enter every single cafe, I ask for a slice of cake. It's so full of icing sugar, and it's quite sickly at the end of it. So I want something that really not that sickly sweet. And I remember the red velvet that I love the most. It's full with cream cheese rather than icing sugar. So I do research. I put down all my research work, and I do more new research about how to bake a cake. So why we need butter, why we need flour, why it has to be a certain oven of temperature, why I cannot overmix it, why I need to mix this first, not that one, why I cannot throw it all together because it turned into a mixture. So at the end of after a month, I tried to bake it, and it turns out to be really, really good. So I found my new hidden talent, and that's when I start baking when I feel stressed.
It's interesting because I think during the pandemic, many people, I tried to bake as well. Probably not as good as yours, obviously. But I didn't really think about, you always wonder in some ways, I didn't do the research, but why things work that way that are. Because baking obviously is so different to other types of cooking, right? Mm-hmm. With the way that the chemicals react. Or obviously, you know this from your research, right? And it's interesting you came at it from that different perspective that many people don't try. And then obviously it's enabled you to learn very fast and make it in that way. But even when you started baking, it was a hobby to begin with, right? Did you ever think, oh, maybe I'll become a baker one day?
No, when I start baking, I do it for fun, because for me, it's an outlet for me to release all my stress. And sometimes, like I said, research is not always flying high, cloud nine, everything turns out to be really good. I've stuck with the same experiment for 6 months during my PhD as well. So the experiment still trying to get to do is not done. It's just not the result that you expected it to be. So every time, whenever the research doesn't work in the lab for so many reasons, I would always go back to home and then start looking for something to make. So before that, I always cook. And then, sometimes cooking is just, I just eat the same thing all the time. I need something nice, something sweet to fill up the craving. And so those baking session is like a therapy session for me. So the good thing about baking is, if it's not happening, you can repeat it, and then you know what the mistake you've done, it's going to turn into a cake. You eat, even if it's non-edible, even though it's a little bit hard, you can still eat them. So that is when I feel I'm in control. You're not feeling hopeless. Unlike research, if it's not working, you're feeling hopeless. You have to go back and you're hoping that it would work. So it is kind of playing with my mental perception and to channel my stress into different ways so that it's all balanced and I'm not going mad.
And then also with the Great British Bake Off, right? when you applied, you didn't necessarily think, oh yeah, I'm going to go on the show and win. How did that come about? What made you decide to even apply?
So I just bake cakes before I even watched British Bake Off. I watched British Bake Off just during the year of pandemic, which is in 2019. And one of the challenges, people make brownies. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the Great British Bake Off. People make brownies. I can make brownies. Probably stand a chance to be in there. I can do that. So that's it. It's just, I didn't try to see the whole challenge of the show. I just see one tiny bit and I decided to go for it. And that year it's closed already. It's just too late to apply for that year. And then I have to apply for the year after. So then I didn't even thought I'll be on the Bake Off. The reason why, I never bake a pie. I never bake a bread. I don't know anything about yeast at that point. It's so many things I don't know how to bake. I don't even know different type of meringue existed until a couple of weeks before I've been on Bake Off. So my knowledge in terms of baking is very little, but what I do is I did a lot more research and tried to understand them. And all my calculation of the recipe is based on purely calculation, converting volume and size and area. So always I try the recipe. So when you do the Bake Off show, it has to be scaled up to make it showstopper and something else. But normally when I practice, it's a very small little cupcake or maybe maybe a third or a quarter of the portion of what you should make. So I end up just scale it up and hopefully on the day it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never know that I could get that far because when I look around on the first week, everybody make a very good cake. But then again, it's because of the instinct as a researcher and everything. You always sample other people's food. I'm always looking at the judges, what our judges say to other contestants, what they really want to taste like. So I took all of the input, not only from my cake, from other people's cake, and I go and taste their cake to see why the judges said that. So the research been done also against the bakers in the tent so that I know exactly what the judges said. So that's a episode that is very, very put me down bottom, the 3, which is the episode 5. You have to make lemon meringue pie. Lemon meringue pie is the only thing that I will never eat because it's too tart and then it's too sweet. It just didn't work for me. I don't know if people will feel offended me saying this, but I have to make it. I have to make it work. And I end up the last on the technical and then it didn't work for me. So that is a week when I think I want to survive further. I know I'll be happy to stay for the first 2 episodes when I join Bake Off, but as a human, your survival instinct kicks on and you just want to be to go as further as you can. So that is when I went home. I changed the strategy completely for my Bake 6 until the end of the show. I just change everything. I tweak it as much as I can. And then I can see the impact of it the week after. So it's all worth it, the research, and I'm taking the huge risk to change it. But yeah, it pans out working well.
It's really interesting what you said there as well, because being a researcher, people don't necessarily think, oh, that's going to help me become a winner on a show, or it's going to help me become a better baker. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people necessarily don't realize that all these skills you learn throughout your life, how much it can help in other areas.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't enjoy it or like you're stressed out about what you're currently doing, that skills you've learned there can be done somewhere else.
Yes.
Which I think is like really inspiring, right? So you can have a life in research, which enabled you, because of the skills you learned there, to win the Bake Off because you knew, oh, this is the research, this is how I can do this, can do that. So I think that's really cool. That, like, what are the ways you think your background really helped you on Bake Off as well?
So that's what people call it as a transferable skills. Sometimes, I mean, not only in a Bake Off situation, it's also in your job situation, in any kind of, any job situation you're trying to apply. Sometimes when you look at the job description, oh, I can't do that, I can't. But hold on, looking back, what needs to be done to achieve the task that they have specified on the job description, you actually have the skills. So what you need to do is convince them that you can achieve the task based on the skills that you had. So that's what happened with me on the Bake Off. I don't have a lot of skills to be a good baker, even a winner of the show at that time. But what I do is I accept that I have the transferable skills. I have my research skill. I have my experimental skills. So all of that actually contribute to what you're going to become. So it's just a lot of perspectives, basically, rather than 1-1 or something like that.
And like, when you won the Bake Off, right? Because it's like, obviously you're so happy to win it. But then what did you think? Like, what am I going to do now? Like, what was that? Was it the moment after you did the celebrations? What were you thinking? Like, what's my life now? Like, what? I'm now the winner of this show, and millions of people have seen me on TV. What was going through your head?
So when they announced that I was the winner on the show, it's happened in June. So it's still very secretive. You were so tired because the Bake Off is very intense. When they announced me as the winner of the show, I feel so numb. I was just react based on the reaction of people around me.
Yeah.
But I still feel like keep on repeating the same word. I feel it's like a jackpot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So all the words that I've been saying for all throughout the afternoon is thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then even after the real thing, when they announced the Bake Off winner on the TV. So I celebrate with a little friends and family, very intimate. We're not doing anything crazy. And then I still don't know what to do with it because it's very new things to me. But you chat with other previous bakers and you also learn what is happening because you have about 13 seasons of bakers. You can see the pattern and how other people achieve so far and what you really want out of this. Because for me, I think at that point, I want to be relevant longer than the popularity rather than the overnight popularity. So going the same way as other people did is slightly repeat the pattern that I don't really want to be in. So the only way to go out and make myself more relevant and using the Bake Off winning as a stepping stone is what I'm trying to do at the moment. I approach Why Hungry and thinking to work with them to do Malaysian afternoon tea and see how well it goes, see how if people really likes it, and then approach another people to work with me and see. It's just how normal people start. But for me, it's advantage for me is I'm the winner of the British Bake Off, so people would want to work with me. So I hope by that, going through the process and being myself as an entrepreneur, make a big impact. I hope so that in future, maybe 2 years or 3 years later after I'm established, and then I'll think about any book deal, anything, so that it'll be more success.
So obviously I was at the Malaysian afternoon tea in the Sisters in a Hotel, wasn't it? And that was Thursday, so it was less than a week ago now.
Yeah.
And it's obviously organised with Why Hungry, like you said, so Siddhi and Heinen who've also been on here too. And it was really interesting to see, right? Because so I went to one with obviously PR, so there's lots of other people who've in different industries that are coming there to like learn about your food. And so the one I remember the most was the watermelon, like the dessert. Obviously, I don't remember the dessert, but because what did you make it out of again? So I remember it was 3 different parts of it, and it wasn't actually watermelon; it was other fruits that you made, right?
Yeah. So it's when I was on Bake Off, people know me as a flavor queen. So I like to put different flavors together to come out with different flavor. And this watermelon cake has been sparks a lot of debate on the launch night and then further coming down the 3 days of the afternoon tea, which is quite interesting. So I can see people try the cake and they're just like thinking what the flavor it could be. Try it another bite. So until the end of the bite, they're still wondering and still like, can I guess? So I think the watermelon cake flavor profile is a success because what I did was I combined 3 different flavors, which is the pandan flavor. It brings out the aroma, the freshness to it. It got a little bit of nice aroma taste after you eat the watermelon. I know it sounds very different, but when you combine it with the lychee, or people call it lychee, it brings out the melon taste. And then for some reason, when you combine it with the syrup, it just brings all the flavor together like you bite a watermelon cake. And the good part of it, when you make it look like a watermelon, people will start believe it. That is the power of perception and how you make people believe what they were eating is actually watermelon. So yeah, it is a success. People agree with me. It tastes like watermelon. And not everyone could guess the 3 flavor, but everyone got, I don't know, not many got the profile of all of them. But yeah, it's kind of really interesting to see.
The day that I went to, there's a few more days as well, open to the public, right? How was that overall experiment? Did you enjoy doing things in that way? Like, what did you learn from it?
So in the whole 3 days, what I've learned from it, because you were very busy in the kitchen and you you were just thinking, okay, I have to make sure everything comes out really nicely. But you forget that the thing that I've learned from the launch event night, I was so busy in the kitchen, I don't have time to really greet everyone upstairs. So the next day of it, I tried to be more organized, knowing better what I could do. So we managed to get people and all hands on deck, get everything on time. So I could go there, I could go to the floor, personally greet everyone and personally explain every single dish to everyone. So at the end of the day, I got a very good feedback. They feel very personalized. They appreciate the effort that me going and greet them and explain the menu. It makes them experience more enhanced, they said.
Yeah.
And what I've learned from it is people come to see you and you know the food has to be delicious, but after you prep the food, you can trust other people and delegate the task to do something else and get the food out there. And it's my responsibility to go and meet people. So yeah, I got a very good message, positive message that everybody enjoyed. So one thing to learn is I just need to make sure that I'm more organized next time. But so far, I really enjoyed it. It was such a great experience. Yes.
And if we rewind a moment as well, because I remember you saying how initially you were trying to do both the baking and the research after you went the bake-off, right? And obviously I guess it's difficult in that bit in between the announced results because you know that you've won, but you can't use it yet, right? You can't tell people you've won.
Yeah.
And then you can't go out and do shows and things like that in the same way. But then what made you decide, okay, I'm now going to go full-time into baking, give my all?
I honestly don't know. I just use all of the decision that I've had so far is just based on my instinct. When people say to me, you shouldn't resign, you should stick to your job and build out your baking career until you get into something and then you can resign. So I think that is one of the factors like, yeah, I'm going to resign. It's just it's just like when you tell me something not to do, I'll think about it. I'll consider the options. But I think it's just take one split second for me to make a decision and just go for it. In life, for me in life, you cannot wait the opportunities to come. And for me in life, you cannot just wondering too long if it's going to work, if it's not going to work, because there's a proof in the pudding. I give my all for the British Bake Off, 100%, I can see the output. If you give 50 and 50, they're still going to take longer time and you can't see any output and you're going to be, you might regret and you might think it's not going to work. So I think based on the experience, based on the judgment, I'll just take the plunge and just resign and focus in 100%. And I can see the fruit of of my result right now because you do more networking, and that's a thing in my mentality that I have to switch from winning the bake-off to what I am right now, is accepting the fact that when you win any show, not everybody watching you. And if you approach anyone, not everybody know who you really are. So you have to introduce yourself, be proud of yourself, which previously I was like, oh yeah, I'm Syabira, rather than, hi, I'm Syabira, I'm the winner of the Great British Bake Off.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm proudly announcing it. You are not trying to brag, you're telling them the facts. Yeah. So you make people aware that your presence. So I think that's one of the key factors, that you switch your mentality. You can be humble, but at the same time, you have to promote yourself. That's how I think, by accepting the fact, being what I'm trying to do now, it's just actually worth it. Yes.
Now, like you said, because you're transitioning from being like working in a research role to now being your own boss and like owning that, and also deciding the different steps, right? Because you've got to make different decisions about what the future holds. And you said before we started talking about how you're experimenting a lot at the moment. And is it almost like a research background there of like, let's do different things and find out what's best? Or how's that mentality going for you at the moment? You
can't just put your eggs in one basket. So based on this mentality, you have to try and add different options that would actually make you feel less disheartened when something is not working. So I just hold on to that principle. And no matter how tired I am at the moment, I'm still trying to figure out my feet in this industry. And if you're trying to achieve what you want to achieve, if you dream something big, but you're not willing to work hard, you will never achieve it. So all hands on deck, mind, passion, try and error, all of that speak to anyone, speak to any successful people that you ever met. They all been through that road and they all have to go through. You cannot get 100% knowledge about every trick and tricks without have to learn them in a hard way. So that's how I think I'm in the right direction. Even though it's a failure, even though if it's a success, they're all still a learning curve that people has to go through. So I think, being a researcher, I think just being realistic and just considering all other options without having the bias of, I'm going to try it. I'm not going to be that popular. No, there's no such thing when you try to weigh out different options. You just have to go for it. You don't want to regret in 10 years' time. What if? It's too late.
Yeah. And like I said, if people don't like it, then if you don't try, then it doesn't matter anyway, right? So it's better to try.
Yeah.
If people don't like it, if it doesn't work out, then you know. But like I said, if in 10 years' time you never tried, people might have loved it. And you never got to find out. What do you enjoy the most about like your like life now of like doing what you're doing?
What I love about my life now, first of all, I don't have any more migraine. And I wake up, I know what I have to do exactly, and I'm my own boss. I can work as hard as I want. I can take half day off as I wanted to, as long as I achieve the same task. So yeah, I kind of like the flexibility and the networking part. And this is what excites me. I've learned a lot every single day. I've learned how to communicate with people, because one of the reasons I learned computational biology, because I don't really like to speak to people, because for me it's hard to speak to people, hard to coordinate. But now I'm learning how to coordinate with people. Now I understand you don't have to like anyone you work with. You just have to be professional to make it work. So it's very interesting takes of life that I'm learning at the moment and quite enjoying it. It makes me feel, even though if you're really angry, you just have to be calm. I don't understand what that means, but now I understand. You can be fuming, boiling inside, but you still have to keep your calm and composure because you are in a professional environment.
Yeah, so I'm happy to hear how much you're enjoying what you're doing now and like your new life as well. We're going to need to move on to the quick fire questions now for time.
Okay.
So the first one is, who are 3 British Asians that you think the audience should be paying attention to and you think are inspiring figures?
I'm inspired by Pinkums, the winner of the MasterChef. She's one of my idol. I like the way she's very charismatic. How she brings herself, how she introduced the food, and how much passionate she's been doing it. It's just mesmerizing. I love her so much. The second one is the owner of the restaurant of Matsale Kopitiam. It's nearby Bayswater. He is one of the friends that I just met recently, but he gave me a lot of advice in terms of the business, which is what I'm learning as well from him. And he's just amazing. He's done a lot of different business. You can hear some of the fail stories, some of the success stories. So he's really resilient people, and I want to be like him one day. And the third one is a lady, Sambal Shiok. I just met Mandy. So she got a restaurant in London, and it sells a lot of Malaysian food as well. So go and check out Sambal Shiok as well, because I like that place.
Awesome. So the next quick fire question is, if people listening right now could reach out to you for help or guidance, what could you maybe help them with?
If people want to come and reach out to me, I can share any part of my experience, because you can come to me as a student, because a lot of students come to me and asking for advice, what to do and what not to do. So if you need baking tips, I'm here. If you need any advice for your PhD, I'm here. If you need a support system, how hard is it to learn bioinformatics, I'm here.
Then on the other side, what's something that you need help with right now? What could maybe the audience help you with?
What do I need right now is a support or advice that how to be a good entrepreneur, how to be successful, because I am entering as an entrepreneur not to be a mediocre. I want to be a success. I want to be not as far, maybe nearly as Gordon Ramsay. I know it's not possible, but I always dream high.
You never know.
You will never know what you could achieve. Always dream high, because it's free, but it will put you up for any challenge, because if you want the biggest prize, you have to be willing to work for it.
So thank you so much for coming on today. Have you got any final words to the audience?
Final words to the audience. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us, and we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission, and you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.